Welcome back, homies. It's another episode of the Mindful CEO. I'm your co-host, Chris Angel, here with our other co-host, Aaron Hendon.
Hey, what's up? The
Aaron Hendon.
mustachioed bald white guys. I cannot, I will never stop getting over our the way we stalk each other's look or
Yeah. Well, I was just about to, I was thinking I almost shaved my mustache this morning, like off. And then you'll have to match it if you do. That'll be,
yeah, I don't think so. I
I
I think at anything I'll grow it out again, but I don't the
think I,
mustache
I'm,
is so hard for me to grow. I just don't
when I
think
met you, you had hair on the top of your head and no facial hair.
it's true for many, many
That's,
years.
that is wild.
Majority of my life.
Well, let's talk about mindfulness and confusion. And I can set this up if you want, but
Yeah, yeah, you should set this up because this is your fucking problem. So
well, you asked, Aaron was asking me like, what are you present to and what's happening for you? What should we talk about? And I just like, I'm in a space right now where, um, let me give it to you for where it is for me and then I can connect it to
yeah.
CEOs. But, um, in July, I made a decision. I went all in on a long-term contract for my business to move to another city to build a coaching program for their business. And, um, it was I don't even know that it was a lateral move. It was like my true east, as we've talked about in this show, has really been about how do I find people that want to change the world. And what I ended up doing, and the decision I made was to build a coaching program for real estate agents, which is a past life for me. It's a life I used to be in. It's not really part of the life I'm living into, and so now I've made a decision. I've invested time, money, and energy. I have people in my program, so like there's future potential for business, money. My reputation's on the line because I kind of came down and said, I'll do this. And so now, as I'm trying to sit with this decision I made, there are these like I'm uncomfortable because I can feel the incongruence of like where I want my life to go versus what this feels like to me. Um, and I'm trying to just sit with the decisions to make. And I don't think this is unlike CEOs who um, try to make decisions for their bottom line, with the CEO hat on, right? Let's try this, let's do that. And you get invested in something and you're like, something about it doesn't feel right. Do I stay? Do I cut bait? How does this work? And I've been trying, and so mindfulness for me has been about how I've related to me being mindful about this is let me just notice my thoughts. Let me notice my options rather than just be ambitious and screw my thoughts and drive it to the end zone. I'm trying to be, I don't know which mindfulness tenet that would be, but I'm trying to be observant of the thoughts that are happening
Mhm.
and sort through them. And it feels screwy to me. It gets confusing to me. So that's kind of the world of it. And I think it's appropriate here because I think sometimes in business we try to make decisions and then it doesn't feel true to our what do we call that? Not monastery, our cathedral, the thing we're trying to build with our life.
Yeah, it's good, Chris. This comes up for me. I mean, certainly as a real estate agent and a broker and managing broker and trainer and looking at the next set of avenues for my life, and I think any CEO, we have eras, chapters, in our life where
Yeah.
how do you know when it's time to move on, and how do you know that you made the right call? That's
Mm.
if you were going to box yours in a question that would be as available to the most listeners, right? It
Yeah.
would be, how do I know when it's time to move on? And then how do I know I made the right call?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
diminishing the actual thing
Yeah. I
you're
think that's
dealing
right.
with, right? But that's fundamentally what you're dealing with, and
Yeah.
I think we all deal with that. So a couple of things uh, showed up for me when you were speaking. One is and I encountered this I think earlier this year. I mean, we're here at December 7th, December 6th, whatever this is,
Right.
December 6th. So
Yep.
almost everything was earlier this year, right? Um,
Uh-huh.
a lot of this year behind us. Um, but there's this. So from the Esther Hicks world, we're going to bring in our friend Abraham to this conversation and
Hmm.
look at it from, you do what feels good, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's your path. Your path is to your ultimate goal is to feel good, do things that feel good in the moment, right? That'll bring you more good feeling things, blah blah
Right.
blah, right? Right? Not really blah blah blah, but just
Yeah.
that's that thought. Um, and so when I got really tired of real estate, I was like, okay, I'm really tired of selling real estate. I really want to start, my mindfulness practice and my instruction practice and
Mm-hmm.
implement that. And how can I do that? And writing a book and getting all that stuff out there. And I, started to take because that felt good to do all that work. And I was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
well, then, I got Esther behind me, right? This is, the proof. And, but what really doesn't feel good is not feeding my family.
Right.
Really doesn't feel good. Feels really shitty, right? When
Mm-hmm.
I can't, when I don't know where the next mortgage payment is coming from. And when, the kids are in college. I don't have to paint that picture, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That feels really shitty.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what feels good is paying the mortgage
Mm-hmm.
and building back up after 2023, which was a disastrous year in real estate for me. Um, Feels good to put money back in the bank and build up a reserve and have that going. That feels really good. Well,
Mm-hmm.
does slinging houses feel great? No, but building up that reserve feels really good.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm going to connect this back to mindfulness now because I really did get that because I was like, oh shit, that's true. I've been focusing on the parts of this that I don't like.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not and the part and what mindfulness and a practice of mindfulness develops. It's so funny, Chris, because I've been doing clips of all our last interviews, right? So just going through Opus clips and making little
Uh-huh.
social media clips. And there's themes. There's actually themes. There's things we talk about over and over and over, which makes me really happy. I'm like, oh look, it's not just all rambles. And this is one of them. Is
Mm.
that that practice of meditation and the practice of intentionally nurturing gratitude,
Mm-hmm.
that intention of being with myself and my body and my experience of life and focusing on nurturing, cultivating, growing allowing to arise a orientation of gratitude has strengthened a muscle of being able to focus on what I want to focus on. So rather than focusing on the parts of real estate that I don't like,
Right.
I focus on, oh, but this is in fact growing, this is creating safety, security, and comfort,
Sure.
me and
Yeah.
my family. And at some point, right, there'll come I do have this intention to develop a practice as a mindfulness instructor and a trainer and like that. And
Yeah.
that will come, but it's certainly not going to come quicker if I'm fucked up and freaked out about not paying mortgage. It's definitely not coming to me quicker that way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I hear that inside what you're dealing with is
Yeah.
it's not that mindfulness has you confused, it's that you're focusing on the shit that you're
Yeah.
what do you hear? Tell me what you hear because I have a
Yeah. Well, it reminds me of when you talk about I don't know if you use the word waterfall, but the waterfall of your thoughts when you're in
yeah,
meditation and you're just watching the thoughts roll and I'm watching the thoughts roll, but it's like I'm engaging them each as they roll by and I'm like, "Oh crap." Like it's confusing me rather than being detached from or unattached from the thoughts just as an observer. I'm really considering each thought as a potential option. I'm like, "Oh, shit, maybe it's that option. Oh, maybe it's that option." Versus just watching it f- roll like a waterfall is
yeah,
what stood out to me about that.
yeah. That was I'm so happy that you saw, because I saw that for you, and I was like, oh, but let's see if Chris saw it himself. And I do think that's the case, is that, and the ones that I know for me, when in that space, when I'm upset or like, is this the right thing to do? I notice that I'm in the thoughts that I'm engaging with
Yeah.
are generally the shitty ones,
Hmm.
are
Yeah.
the ones
Yeah.
about how fucked up things are, how much I don't like this, or how not true this is, or true to
Yeah.
my calling. That's the thought I'm engaging with. I'm not letting
Yeah.
that one go by. Right? That one,
Right.
oh, that's a real thought, right?
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
thought I need to pay attention to versus no, they're all just fucking thoughts. And why don't I just, if I'm going to pick a thought from the waterfall, if I'm going to catch some thoughts, let me catch the thoughts about, you know, I have dry socks.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
My socks are dry. That's
Uh,
I did that as the meditation 2 days ago, and I just fucking love that meditation because no one wants wet socks. Wet socks suck, and we don't give enough love to. In
yeah.
an instant, you can go, yeah, my feet are dry and warm,
Hmm.
and my roof doesn't leak, and I have food in the fridge, and all of a sudden, you're spiraling into control,
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Nice.
You know,
Nice.
and
Yes.
because they're all just fucking thoughts. They're just all cascading. You're just
Love
catching
that.
the ones that are like, oh, oh my God, I've totally sold out my future and I am stuck in Vegas and I really fucking hate this. And
That's funny.
and you can, right?
Right. Right.
Um, so I
That's
do
great.
think, yeah, I do think there's an avenue for us when you do follow the good feeling thoughts. The
Yeah.
next thing opens up.
Yeah. That's good. Hmm. I
Um,
mean, yeah.
go ahead.
Well, I know. I was like, maybe that's all that is to say about that. I don't know. Is there more there
Yeah.
for you to say? Like, I'm
No,
like,
not about that, but I do. So it does bring up this other point that I did want to grapple with,
yeah,
and that was uh, is there a difference between allowance and acceptance? So here you are. Let's just go back to the cascade for a
yeah,
second, or you now, you know, living a grateful life in a fucked up world is sort of, the is my cowbell, right? That's more cowbell. Like
yeah.
everything is going to funnel down into a picture of how can I live a grateful life in a fucked up world, which really means, when I'm fucked up, how can I find gratitude? When things are fucked up, how can I find gratitude? It's no problem finding gratitude when things aren't fucked up. Um, and there's this space of becoming aware of how it feels in the moment, just awareness, which then I've had it like then gets me a space of allowance. I can allow it to be, and then I can accept it. Because until I can accept it as what it is, like, the upset as the upset,
Yeah.
if I'm resisting it, I can't, I'll never get to gratitude. Anything I resist, I can't get to gratitude in that space. I can't both resist the current reality, which includes how I feel in the current
Yeah.
reality. The experience I have in the current reality is in fact my current reality. I can Unless I can accept that I feel that way,
Hmm.
I'm never getting to gratitude. And is there a difference between allowing something to be and accepting it as it is, distinct? And if so, how are they distinct? Or maybe they're really close and you don't have to make that distinction between the two. Or maybe they're not. I don't know. I just,
What originally led you to the question of how they're different?
well, I've been working on the formula for how you get to gratitude when things are fucked
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
And I do have awareness as a starting spot, right? Basic
Yeah.
fundamental awareness. Are you present to the waterfall? Just aware
Yeah.
of all of it, non-judgmentally aware of it. And then in that space, there's then The next space is allowance. This is just personal discovery
Yep.
and what I'm hashing out. But then there's allowance, allowing it to be the way it is. Like, okay, I'm this way, it is this way. And then I could just see moving really quickly into acceptance. Like, I do think there's a difference. I think allowance comes first. I think you just, I stop. Allowance is really the letting go of resistance.
Hmm.
And acceptance is, uh, feels more active on my part.
Yep.
Like
I get that.
it's like I allow it to be, and I then come to accept it. I don't know. There's some
Yeah.
space in there, right? Which is what I'm distinguishing. This is how I came to it. Like, and you could argue once you allow it, you are accepting it. And I don't know that I would have a fight with you if you wanted to argue that once you allow something, you are automatically accepting it. That means that's what it is to allow it. But I don't know that that's the case. Anyway, so allowance and acceptance are
Yeah.
closely related, if not, and then you can move into appreciation, and then from appreciation, like
Yeah. It almost feels like acceptance is the bridge between allowing and appreciation. Like allowing and appreciation might have a bigger gap. Like I can allow it here, but there's
oh, that's good.
there is an exchange between me accepting it, um, like I get a receipt. Like I go to the dry cleaners. Here's this, and I accept, and they're accepting my giving them the dry cleaner, and they give me a receipt for it. Like they accepted it. They didn't just allow me to stand in their lobby and like hang my shirts on their thing. They received and accepted the thing I brought. Allowing it would just be it sits in the lobby, but accepting it is taking it into custody. Uh, in this example,
So fucking good.
and
That's so fucking good. I love that. Yes.
then
Yes.
I get the shirts back, and I appreciate my shirts that you cleaned for me.
That's really good. I don't need that last part, but that difference between
Yeah.
I can allow it to sit there or I can
Yes.
accept it in,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah. Because
right.
it's like the this is happening to me or this is happening for me. It's almost like this is happening for me happens when you accept, but in allowance, I haven't fully committed to this is happening for me. I'm just
Yeah.
allowing it to be here.
Right. It's happening. I'm
Yeah, it's
acknowledging
happening.
it's happening. I'm
Correct.
aware of it's happening, and I'm not going to fight it. And then I'm going to bring it in.
Right.
And
Right.
then when I bring it in, I can look to see, okay, well, what's the
Yeah.
lesson? What is there to appreciate about this
Yeah.
situation? What could I appreciate about this situation? If I was, depending on the difficulty, the level of trauma or the
Yeah. Right.
scope of the thing, what do I appreciate about it? And from appreciation, then there's this when you're fully appreciating something and you find a way to disappear the ego,
Mm. Mm.
it moves to gratitude. When you're, and this is, so I don't think we talked about this. I had a conversation with Michael Mead. Do you know who Michael Mead is?
Mm.
Michael Mead's an author and a storyteller and one of the world's leading thought leaders in mythos and the
Mm.
way human beings
Cool.
tell stories. And
Cool.
he's just brilliant, world renowned guy. He lives on Vashon and he's a friend.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I took him out for drinks and wanted to ask him about gratitude. And um, he said gratitude is wholeness and wholeness is gratitude.
Mm.
And I was like, what?
Mm.
Like, get me in that world there. Tell me more about that. And his take on this, and I wrote about this in one of my last blog posts, that, we, when you are in, when you put yourself back together, what's there is gratitude. So, the original separateness, like we are separate, we are broken, we are, as human beings, we come from the ether,
Yeah.
from one
Yes.
to an individual.
Mm.
right? We come from everything
Hmm. Mhm.
to this thing, right? So
Mhm.
we come from that space, that's the spiritual context in which all religion and any mythology comes from, is that you come from nothing into this thing, and you're separate from this thing. We are skin
Right.
bags, right?
Yep.
Individual skin bags. And anytime that we make a connection with someone or something that brings us closer to being whole again, we have the experience of being whole. What's there is the experience of gratitude
Hmm.
every time. And every time that gratitude is present, we're also being made a little bit more whole.
Hmm.
And when I really examined it,
Hmm.
I mean, that blog post is all about that. It's
Hmm.
but we were talking about it. It gets into the way we greet each other.
Oh.
Shaking hands in the
Uh-huh.
West, shaking hands, kissing on the cheek.
Right.
That's
Sure.
all a way of being connected.
Right. Yeah. Hmm.
Where
Yeah.
right, and in that moment, if you take the time to say hello, and mostly in the West we don't,
Yeah.
but Eastern cultures with bowing, and African cultures with prostrating oneself, and uh,
Right.
all are designed to acknowledge the presence of
Hmm.
that version of ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and to make ourselves whole again.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and gratitude is present in all those interactions. If you're slow enough, if you're quiet enough, if you're present enough, you'll notice that when you really are said hello to, gratitude is present.
Hmm.
And I was like, it was a really interesting take on gratitude.
Hmm.
And I forgot how I got into this.
Well, you had drinks with your friend on
I was
Vashon and
talking about,
wholeness and gratitude.
oh, when the ego disappears.
Uh-huh.
That humility is really the ego disappearing. Yes, that's,
Hmm.
you're
Hmm.
not the, I think C.S. Lewis quote, gratitude is not thinking less. I'm sorry, humility is not thinking less of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Humility is thinking of yourself less.
Mm-hmm.
That there's that to be humble is to be egoless, is to be without
Hmm.
individuality, is to notice again that we are part of something greater and larger, and that I am no longer this person. I am
Yeah.
nothing and everything. That in that space, that's what it is to be humble, is that there is no ego over here.
Hmm.
Um, and in that space of in the West, everything is a duality. Everything's me and you, one, this or that. Eastern thought is way more monolithic. It's all unity. It's all one.
Hmm. Right.
So as we lose our attachment to our individuality, we are
Hmm.
in a very real way being made more humble. So if we're sitting in appreciation of something, if I'm appreciating our relationship, if I'm appreciating my socks being dry, or
Yeah.
you know anything I'm appreciating, or appreciating the lessons of global warming, or if I'm appreciating you know that my socks are wet, and that that this is not a circumstance that I'm delighted with, but I'm appreciating something about it. And in that moment, if I can let go of the meanness in that
Hmm.
space,
Hmm.
me appreciating it to just it being appreciated,
Hmm. Hmm.
there's a sense of gratitude that arises in that space of letting go of the meanness of it. That,
Hmm.
in other words, to be made whole again, to get back to reconnect with
Yeah.
our larger self, the big S self.
Yeah.
Um,
Huh.
Gratitude becomes present.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so. That's where the whole question about allowance and acceptance, and I couldn't quite get it resolved for myself. But you, with the dry cleaner, fucking nailed it. That was exactly, love that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It does feel active. Yeah. Active feels very,
yeah,
acceptance feels very active to me.
yeah,
And allowance feels a little more passive to me.
yeah. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's deep, man. That, if I was picturing an animated Harold and the Purple Crayon through this conversation, like, page after page, where like where the crayon went, where we took the
Yeah.
crayon in this conversation was fun.
Yeah, that was good. That is a relatively short episode, but I think we should wrap it there. I think that's um yeah, I think that's I'm so glad I got that you got that worked out and we got that worked out. Um Makes a real difference for me to
Uh,
have that flat and
yeah,
have a way of distinguishing it. So
nice, love
good.
it, good, awesome. Everybody, thanks for listening. Hey, I went to Spotify the other day and looked at our podcast, and I gave us a review.
Hey, what a good idea.
And then I went to Apple Podcasts, found it again, and I gave us a review on Apple Podcasts.
Oh, I should do that because I got so
Yeah.
much value out of today's episode that I should be like, this episode kicked ass.
Yeah. And I realized there weren't very many other reviews there. So if you're listening to this, uh, would you just take a moment and allow some gratitude to come into your space about our conversations and what they do for you, and do some um, Dana. You brought up Dana, Aaron. If you'd like to gift, if you'd like to donate a
Yeah.
gift without anything in return, you may go leave a review as a form
Yes.
of a contribution.
Okay. Awesome. Well, that's great. I definitely am going to go do that. I had forgotten that I could do that. I will
Yeah,
definitely.
nice, awesome.
That's great.
All
All
right,
right.
everybody. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next time.